It's the Real Estate Podcast, brought to you by ANZ Home Loans for financial well-beings.
Hey, welcome back to another episode of the Real Estate Breakfast, talking property as we do 7 days a week, as heard on iHeartRadio, Spotify, Apple Podcasts and Amazon. And our week up to a Thursday, May the 16th today, the scramble for land. I want to talk about this in the southeast Queensland's corner. Now that has hit new highs with expected warnings that securing a house and land package, I think you can just about forget it, can't you? Under 700k, probably a thing of the past. Buyers, of course, they are heading to city fringe areas like Logan, which we have talked about, Moreton Bay and Redlands, fleeing, of course, these record high prices in Brisbane and the Gold Coast. So the demand surge is outpacing even the pandemic housing boom, which has left developers starting to really scratch their heads and struggling to keep up. I mean, that is such a sobering stat, isn't it? The demand surge outpacing the pandemic housing boom. And we thought that at the time was bad enough. And let's not forget about Brisbane's median house price, which has soared to over $924,000, and the rents, of course, they're hitting that median price point of $620 per week. So let's catch up with Jon Rivera. He is a director from Colliers there. And a very good morning to you, Jon. Welcome to the Real Estate Breakfast. Good to have you on.
Thanks, Craig. Good morning to you too.
So how bad is this? You said that you have been working in the market for 20 years. How bad?
I've never seen what is actually happening in terms of the residential market. I've never seen the impacts that we've had from a demand, from a supply, from a shortage point of that supply and versus that demand, the rental crisis, construction constraints, all these impacts I've never seen them firing at this level or the veracity of what we're seeing. So this is something that is exciting, but it's also got its significant challenges, particularly for obviously buyers.
Yeah, okay, so this is the obvious follow-up question. What's the market future looking like?
This is a question that I get asked a lot, and it's like I can't see any other outcome but further growth. And when I say growth, I mean price growth, because we've got to, we take it back to a fundamental of we've got a lot of demand. We've got people wanting to live. We've got a rental crisis, which obviously attracts investors, and they're part of that demand. And so the challenge we've got is that we're not building the supply. We're not producing the bedrooms or the beds to be able to accommodate that. And so what does that lead to? Well, price growth. And on top of that, we've got construction, which is being affected by, I guess, pretty much Queensland or Australia's big build, as I say, all the infrastructure, the roads, the hospitals, everything that the COVID, that environment produced, plus then an Olympic Games to top that off. This is something that is, again, super exciting, but it's going to have challenges and definitely one of affordability. I don't see that disappearing anytime soon.
Now, I mentioned in the setup that the developers probably scratching their head at the moment. Very incredibly frustrating times for developers. You talk to developers. How are they kind of trying to navigate around this issue? Because there's all sorts of pressures that currently are being squeezed.
Absolutely. Like, I think the misconception is that developers are really, benefiting out of this, but they're actually finding it extremely difficult to deliver. Projects are not stacking up from a feasibility point. So they're not even coming to the market because they don't viably work. And that's a lot of the time, based on construction. And the apartment market, we talk about the missing middle, which is the townhouse market. I actually think we've got a missing density market now, which used to be an affordable option for buyers. Now you have to be, it's all about A-grade sites, luxury sites, because that's how you can pay for the construction. This is not something that is going to be fixed quickly I think developers are trying to innovate this space, working with the authorities, trying to get, all levels of government to assist, but it's not easy. It's like, it's the chicken and the egg. How do we fix construction prices? How do we fix supply constraints? How do we fix environmental constraints? All these things that are leading to supply challenges. And then on top of that, the feasibility side, which ultimately, does this work? Can we actually fund it? Can we develop it? It's a question of, okay, do we just keep rising prices, but then who's going to buy it? Who can afford to buy it? Again, like there's definitely opportunities in the market, but it's going to limit those opportunities as well for certain assets.
I mentioned Logan. Now, that is an area that we have talked about. Now, if people are fleeing to Logan, isn't the same sort of problem going to affect Logan with what is happening around other areas?
Absolutely. And look, I love Logan. I was born and raised in Logan. I've seen what's happened in that environment and that market. And Logan used to be an affordable area. It used to be really well located, obviously between Brisbane and the Gold Coast. You could go and get a new house and land, or even on an older mature home and be under 500,000. That market now, I'm selling in Logan with a 7 in front of it for a house and land. It's even in some cases well above the first homeowners grant of 750. These areas that used to be affordable are now becoming out of reach. The investor is definitely capitalizing because the rental rates there are now also above 600 a week. So this is again like these traditional markets like Logan, Ipswich and Moreton Bay Council, they are transgressing into what we've seen in Sydney. And this is why I keep saying, this market this year, it was all about trying to get in before with a 5 in front of it in terms of a package. Now it's about a 6, and it's almost, will it be a 7 next year? Definitely.
Yeah, it's not exactly comforting what you are saying. John, we'll come back to you in just a moment. We'll talk more about the issues for Queensland. It's not just, of course, limited to Queensland, but right across the country. We'll do that next.
Navigate the world of real estate like a pro, with expert insights, opinions and trends to up your game and knowledge when buying your next property.
Now, rising rents, Mr. Speaker, are another big part of the inflation challenge, and we're supporting renters who need our help. We are providing $1.9 billion to increase the maximum rates of Commonwealth rent assistance by a further 10%. It's the first back-to-back increase to Commonwealth rent assistance in more than 30 years. In the 5 years from this July, we aim to build 1.2 million of them. Our goal is ambitious, but it's achievable. $6.2 billion in new investments mean our $32 billion Homes for Australia plan will clear local infrastructure bottlenecks, provide more housing for students, fund more social and affordable housing. And we'll also deliver better transport for better access to suburbs and cities and regions. More homes means more affordable homes and a better deal for buyers, builders and renters alike. We've already allocated $3.5 billion to address bottlenecks and to slash red tape. And this budget includes another $1 billion to help states and territories build more housing sooner. And we're providing $89 million for 20,000 additional fee-free TAFE and vet and vocational places to train more construction workers to do the work that we will need.
Listen to in-depth discussions with industry leaders on investing options, understanding different suburbs with insider perspectives and exclusive tips.
And it is a Real Estate Thursday. We are talking this morning with Jon Rivera, a director from Colliers, and plenty of passion coming through your voice there, John. It's probably fused with a lot of frustration, and where do we go to next? And I want to just ask you about the first home buyers grant. That only kind of works, it only stacks up within that 750k. So do you think more should be done with regard to that?
Completely. It hasn't moved with the times. It's outdated when you look at what buyers, and I'm working with these buyers day to day where we're trying to make things work in the locations where they want to live. And the thing that I'm seeing is that they are being forced further and further away in areas, predominantly because of affordability, but in areas that don't have the proper infrastructure. So there's this whole dynamic at the moment where I think, yes, there needs to be more done to actually understand, can I afford to fit in that bracket anymore in majority? And the question that the answer I would say to that is no. That's becoming less and less. So 750 probably needs to move towards 850 in terms of that bracket.
And from a first home buyer's grant and first home buyers themselves, disillusionment, I mean, it's so strong at the moment with everything that's going on. I mean, the media are talking about all the main talking points, but I do feel that first home buyers, they're just getting beaten up all the time from one direction to another.
Absolutely. And there used to be, we used to have finance products that were suited towards first home buyers. If you looked at, prior to the Royal Commission in the finance sector, the banks were a little bit more freer. Now it's a pretty vanilla finance market, meaning that, you don't really have too many options to get a loan or to have a more aided loan that helps a first home buyer right now. And so coupled with construction challenges that obviously affect the finance sector, where they can live, the timeframes that's blowing out as well from a construction. Like we've seen projects blow out because of obviously, many factors, including both, the government side as well as the development side, but they blow out, which then leads to more price increase because builders can't afford to build that price anymore. So this is like a really hot point for a first home buyer. It's one that, how do you navigate that? And there's not a lot of support for them. It's not easy for them out there.
We talk about people moving around, particularly first-home buyers. Can you imagine if we were not living in the future that we are, where you can use the internet and totally relocate to a different state? Hundreds and hundreds of miles away, if not thousands of miles away from your home base. That would just actually add fuel onto the fire.
Absolutely. I mean, the rent vesta is real. Yeah. I see this every day where people and we've been seeing this for the last, 5 to 10 years from New South Wales, where people were priced out of the Sydney market and said, well, I'm going to buy in Brisbane because this is the alternative. And that's actually still occurring because we're still affordable. We're still more affordable than what's happening in Sydney. But this window, I think it's shutting, and it's shutting quick. And particularly where you want to live in Southeast Queensland. A lot of this is fueled by employment opportunities. And again, all that big build that we talk about that's happening, right now, that infrastructure investment, both private and public, that leads to more jobs. We've got a job market. And so we need to bring these people in to deliver that. This is why it's so fascinating, this market, because we've inflated it through jobs, but we've got to be able to provide the bed, the one thing that all humans need, which is a roof under their head. And that is the challenge right now.
And just before I let you go, what did you think of the budget?
Well, I'd like to see a little bit more implementation as to what they're going to be doing there, but I feel it's just not enough. It's not going to be the impact that this market needs to be able to drive change, and it won't happen overnight. So this is something that, again, I don't think this is going to fundamentally change too much in people's lives for the short term.
All right then, well, great to chat with you, Jon. I know that there's a lot of passion and frustration all sort of blended together with many of those comments. So good luck on your Thursday, and I hope that the next 6 to 12 months, I don't know, we need a magic bullet, don't we?
I don't know if we want to be waiting for that. But yes, it's an exciting next 6 to 12 months, I can guarantee that.
Ready to step up your property knowledge? Access powerful insights with us. Don't navigate the real estate market alone. Let us help guide you in the world of real estate every day. Make better informed decisions with the latest news and insights.
We literally bought about a month ago. So we've just recently moved into our townhouse.
Oh, how good is that?
It's great, yeah. It's still lots to unpack and whatnot, but at least we feel a bit more settled that it's our own property now, and we can go with it now.
Now, you have stuck it out because so many people are just not in a position to buy a Sydney property, whether it's an apartment, a unit, a townhouse, or a house. Obviously, a house is kind of out of the question for most people these days. So what made you sort of stick to Sydney and say, no, we will not be moved?
We were talking about it. So me and my wife were talking about potentially going to like Queensland and Brisbane because the prices are a bit cheaper up that way. But we really enjoy Sydney. Since we've been here, we've really enjoyed it. And then my son started school this year as well. So we didn't really want to be moving him around too much.
We connect you to the best real estate information across Australia. The Real Estate Podcast.